I'm so fully committed to this lifestyle because it has healed me from the inside out 100%. And people say, oh, well, why don't you go back to eating cooked foods now if you're healthy? And I say, because number one, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Number two, I spent years getting to the point of where I am at right now. And number three, I am a person who knows what my worst feels like. And I am a person who knows what my absolute best feels like. And I feel my absolute best when I am 100% raw and I'm eating living foods that have the highest frequency possible. I want all of those colors inside of me all the time. I want to feel alive all the time. I, made a promise to myself long ago that I wasn't going to numb or shut down or stuff or participate in anything that would derail me in that way. And I've been fully committed to that journey.
So good evening, y'all. Welcome, everybody. We are here with a very special guest and someone I like to refer to as a friend. I was about to call Dr. Kristina Carrillo-Bucaram, and I think she is a doctor in certain ways. She is an extraordinary individual. I learn a lot from her when I look at her videos, not only from the standpoint of the recipes, but from the standpoint of her lifestyle. What I want to do is ask Kristina to sort of share her insight into the fully raw diet. And as I shared with, we were talking before we came on, we use the raw diet a lot in my clinical practice because it's really beneficial for individuals to really rapidly turn their lives around. And some of the pushback we get is that individuals are challenged because it's like, well, how do I stay raw? What about the variety? I love my warm food and so on and so forth. So I was thrilled that Kristina was willing to come and speak to our audience because, she's one of the foremost experts on living a fully raw life and diet. And so she can probably help us address those things. But Kristina, thank you very much for coming. Kristina is a Rice grad, summa cum laude. She has, many different talents. She's in Hawaii. She has a farm. She's living a natural life. I'm trying to catch up to her. I just bought 10 acres of land. We'll be growing food. We're getting a well, and she's like many years ahead. So anyway, Kristina, welcome.
Well, can I just say first, it's an honor to be here with all of you. So thank you for allowing me to share this space with you and for allowing me to share my story. I want to acknowledge all of your efforts to be here, to take charge of your health and to change, and your willingness to get healthy. This is the hardest work. And I want to say that because we are living in a society right now where numbing, stuffing, convenience, fast food, everything is so readily available to you. And the easier option is actually to take the path of least resistance, which is what is so readily available and accepted by our society. So I've been a raw vegan 100% for over 17 years now. It's changed my life. When I was, around 14 years old, 14 to 16, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, hyperglycemia. I had very high blood sugar. I was raised on a Lebanese and Ecuadorian diet. For those of you who don't know what that entails, it's a lot of olive oil. It's a lot of meat, raw meat, fried chicken, beans, and rice. And it was because of this high fat, high meat diet. I did not grow up eating a lot of fruit whatsoever, barely any vegetables. The vegetables were either fried or in some other form that wasn't raw. It ended up, giving me intense weight fluctuations by the time I was 14 to 16, blackout headaches, blood sugar issues, fainting spells, chronic, nausea, migraines. I had the highest GPA in my high school and I almost didn't graduate because I had so many sick days. And so 6 months before I graduated high school, a stranger approached me in the grocery store. It was John Rose, and he tapped me on the shoulder. And he definitely knew that something was wrong with me because I had just gotten out of the hospital and I had an IV patch in my arm from getting treated. And everything doctors were telling me to consume at the time was diabetic approved in a package, basically chemical boxes of things. I wasn't allowed to eat fruit. I wasn't allowed to eat fresh food. It was all had to be diabetic approved, sugar-free this, sugar-free that. And usually those sugar-free packages are even more toxic for your body because they're laden with chemicals of all different kinds and fake foods and fake sweeteners and Lord knows what. So I ended up getting even more sick over the course of the 2 years that I was diagnosed. So when John Rose approached me in the grocery store, his approach to me was so funny because he was just like, "Are you raw vegan?" And I was like, "What?" Like he flat out went for it and just, started planting seeds. We're talking Texas 17 years ago. I didn't even really understand what a vegetarian was. Veganism was not as popular as it is now. No way, are you kidding? Recycling was just starting to trend in Houston, let's be honest. I was getting ready to go to college. So there was this man all of a sudden that started telling me that he's been juicing for decades and he's been healthy and eating raw food. He doesn't cook his food. I had never heard of such a thing. And of course, culturally, I'd never heard of such a thing. So me being a very curious individual, I took his card and I went home. Turns out I ended up going back into the hospital that night. I had fainted and had a migraine, nausea, smell, whatever it was. And when I got out of the hospital 3 days later, I felt like I'd hit rock bottom for an 18-year-old. Chronic illness is no joke. It's hard to get out of bed every morning. And I just remember calling up John Rose again. And I said, "Hey, I feel like I've exhausted all my other options. I've never tried anything alternative before. Will you teach me what you know?" And he did. He became my mentor for 6 or so months. And then after that, I ended up going and working for Dr. Douglas Graham, who's another raw food pioneer doctor in this space. And I ended up flying to Seattle to go intern with him and worked under him. And I started learning about more than just raw food, but learning about fasting and the benefits of juice feasting, water fasting, all the things. What's interesting is I ended up first going to Vanderbilt and then going to Costa Rica and then going to Rice. Graduated with 3 majors, but I ended up, solidifying myself in kinesiology and the study of health sciences. And my senior thesis was on the difference between water fasting and juice feasting. And I started a co-op right out of college at Rice, which is how I met Dr. Montgomery. And since then, my journey has only continued. I reversed my diabetes around the time I was 21-ish. So it took me a good 1.5 years, almost 2 years to naturally reverse diabetes, just through food, getting off insulin, no extra medication, doing it the natural way, starting to exercise again. And I think that's relevant here because so many of us do decades and decades and decades of damage to our bodies. And everybody wants that quick fix magic pill. And they're like, "I'm going to go raw and all my problems are going to be done in a week." When I tell people it took me almost 2 years to reverse my diabetes and I was at the very ripe age of 18, it's just a reminder that it does take time to reverse trauma, like internal trauma that's happened to our bodies and conditioning and generational patterns. And, the physical component is really just one aspect. What's interesting about this lifestyle, and we don't have to go into this, but a huge part of my journey was realizing that raw food really was me opening the door to more healing. I thought that once I'd reversed my diabetes, that was the end of it. I was like, yeah, I'm winning at life. And then it was like, dun, 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 welcome to level 2. This is an emotional healing component. Welcome to the Hunger Games. And then, as soon as you start to dive into healing all of this raw emotion that comes up for you in your journey, you're like, yeah, I've got this. I'm breaking patterns. And it's like, dun, 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 welcome to level 3, spirituality. Are you really connected with yourself and your food? And here I am 17 years later, and I'm still learning. I'm still a student. There's so much out there. The journey really never ends. I just want to tell people I fought harder to live my life the way that I want and am living now than I fought for anything in my entire life. And I saw that this was physically healing my body, and I wasn't receiving support from pretty much anyone around me, especially my family. And so the hardest part for me was getting support from my family. And that was by far, the most challenging, because culturally, my family didn't understand what I was doing. My mother didn't talk to me for 4 years. And considering I was only an 18-year-old girl, that had a big impact on my life. We didn't start talking again until I was around 22, 23. We took Marshall Rosenberg's course together to learn how to communicate again. And she tried to send me away to an eating disorder facility because she didn't understand what I was trying to do. Eventually over the course of the years, I ended up winning over all of my family members because I had to prove to them that I was actually physically healthy and getting healthier. And what I couldn't understand is why I was showing up in every single way possible. It was like I was making straight A's, I put on the weight, I didn't have diabetes anymore. It was like I was literally showing them a box of gold or something, and they didn't believe that I was holding it. And when I began to understand where they were coming from, it was just that they really missed sharing the old me, and they didn't like that I was changing. And so there was a lot of therapy that happened in my family around when one person really changes, the dynamic changes. And it means that either everyone has to change with you, or that some people fall away. And I feel very blessed that my family, after a period of 4 years, was willing to embrace this with me, but it took years. What motivated me the most and what inspired me the most is that for the first time in my life, I was feeling physically healthy and feeling physically the best I'd ever felt. And that's something that since the time I was 14, maybe younger, I never had experienced. So for me, it became something that I protected because I was like, nobody's going to take this away from me. They all want me to be sick again. They all want me to be the old Kristina, but why can't they want me to be healthy, bright, alive Kristina? And it took me a long time to fight for that Kristina and to fight for the life that I wanted, because I really didn't feel like I had the acceptance of my family. So my family component was number one. Number two, I would say, is of course, from peers and whatnot, it's challenging. People make comments to you. It can be like, whether you're in the workforce or you're in school or whatnot, you have to bring a lunch to a public place. People make comments. Oh, are you eating a salad? Or, oh, is that a bowl of fruit? It's almost like they put you down for being healthier, but where it's really coming from is a place of insecurity, that they wish that they had the inner strength to show up for themselves in that way. They actually wish they were eating your fruit salad. I learned fairly early on that the more I communicate about where I'm coming from and why I'm doing something, you will reach more people and impact more people. And when you choose to keep things to yourself, that's when people actually think something is wrong with you. And the people who don't see that will fall away. And you don't want those people in your life anyway. You want people who are going to hold space and who are going to understand and show support. It took me a good 5, 6, 7, 8 years to figure out how to master this way of living. And I would say now that it's so easy for me, I don't think about it. I'm 17 years in, and you can get there too. I say that not to be like, oh, I'm so much better, but it was my goal to master this to the point of where it was so intertwined in my life that it became effortless. So eating raw for me now is so effortless. I have a juice, like a 32-ounce jar of green juice every morning for breakfast. I have a smoothie bowl for lunch, or a bowl of fresh fruit. I have rainbow salads for dinner, or zucchini noodles or cucumber noodles, or any kind of other raw dish that I like. And what's so interesting is that food is really only one part of the whole holistic spectrum, right? When you start looking at it, true healing is more than just about food. You've also got to add in your exercise. I get in a great workout every day. The thing that I actually struggled with the most beyond food was sleeping. I don't know if you remember this, Dr. Montgomery, but for a good decade there, I only slept for 3 or 4 hours a night because I was so committed to my co-op, and I was in college and working 3 jobs. So yep. I really struggled with sleep, and I threw myself into insomnia unintentionally. So I've been working hard to master better sleeping patterns. And then of course you have to add in the emotional component in there. And so for me, when people ask me about my lifestyle, I always like to make sure that I let them know it's more than just about food, but the food is just one component of healing, but it's almost like the gateway drug to everything else in this lifestyle.
And I tell people this all the time. I say, don't expect the world to change for you. Expect yourself to change the world. And you've exemplified that. The world did not change for you, but yet through your God-given tenacity and inner strength and core, you are now changing the world. And I applaud you for that. I salute you. The world salutes you. So continue to do the great things you're doing, make those great videos, keep educating us. We're watching, the world's watching, and more power to you. So thank you so much. And thank you for coming and gracing us with your presence. You're extremely busy with your millions of followers, and you found the time to come talk to our community. We really like that. So thank you very much.
I would do anything for you, Dr. Montgomery. You and Houston have a very special place in my heart. Just know that. Well, just because I'm not there doesn't mean I don't love you. I'm on my own journey.
Well, you've shown it here tonight, so I really appreciate it. And keep up your great work, and I'll keep following those videos and following those recipes.
The world needs you. Houston needs you. Everybody, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your space. I'm honored, and go eat Fully Raw.
All right. Everybody have a great night. Kristina, wonderful. Thank you very much. We'll share this with the world. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks so much.